Attention Greece is getting from the EU has Ukrainian leaders worried that their problems are getting overlooked. Roee Ruttenberg sat down with the Ukraine's finance minister in Washington, D.C. and asked if Brussels and Berlin should pay more attention to her country.
Ukraine has 4 times the population of Greece, a much greater set of natural resources, is geographically extraordinarily important and strategically important. And Ukraine is a country that today is facing unbelievable challenges, challenges not brought on by an unwillingness to reform or a laziness to change, but instead by externalities.
Is it a better candidate for the EU than Greece?
Well, I don't think the issue is better or not, but I think Ukraine is becoming a better and better candidate for Europe every day. Ukrainians have chosen the European choice. They've laid their lives down on the line for European values. As we move forward, as we implement these reforms, we will prove that we are indeed a great part of the European world.
As late as Sunday, the IMF criticized legislation both that is on the table now in Ukraine and some that passed earlier this month. They said it's short-term gains are getting in the way of long-term progress.
We share that concern. Those legislative proposals were not made by the government, in fact. There's no question that we need to stay together, stay unified, our president, our prime minister, and our coalition in parliament, and keep on the reform track. There's no time to turn back, there's no ability to turn back, and there's no funding to turn back.
Some of those reforms have been very unpopular, the gas price hikes, for example.
Energy was an area that was extraordinarily corrupt in Ukrainian history. For 23 years, by not passing on economic cost recovery, we had all kinds of rent-seeking behavior in the marketplace. We were, in effect, subsidizing everyone in the market. And with a scarce, limited resource, that meant that the bulk of the subsidies were going not to those who were in need, but instead to those who use the most gas. And now, with this change, with the movement towards economic cost recovery, which involves, at this stage, one set of increases, we are eliminating the opportunities for rent-seeking behaviors by, over time, eliminating different prices in the market. We're also focusing those limited resources on providing subsidies. $24 billion, over $1 billion worth of subsidies this year to those who are vulnerable, who really need the support, rather than spreading those resources over segments of the population that can well afford to pay the market price for gas.
But can you afford that? Your economy is expected to shrink by 9.5% this year, inflation 48% compared to last year. Can Ukraine afford these changes?
We have to. We have no choice. Our sovereignty is at stake. And frankly speaking, we can't afford not to. Yes, it would have been easier to do it over the last 23 years, bit by bit, but that's not an option we have today. Today we need to move forward, and we need to do it in as short of a period as time to minimize the pain and move back to real economic growth in 2016.
You're dealing with a lot of debt, and you have a payment coming up later this month. Have you been making progress in that front?
We are making progress. I'm very happy that on June 30th we signed a confidentiality agreement. That confidentiality agreement enables us finally, after 3 long months of discussions, to enter into real negotiations with our creditors. We had one meeting on Friday. We have another one scheduled here in Washington on Wednesday that I will be personally participating in. And I think both sides right now feel a sense of progress. Both sides are being constructive, and I look forward to making real progress on Wednesday.
You have a $3 billion Russian bond that's due to mature at the end of this year. How do you plan to deal with it?
It is our intention to treat all of our creditors equally, regardless of nationality. So it is a part of the restructuring that we hope to succeed at over the next few weeks.
Some countries in the past, for example, Argentina recently turned to China to deal with its debt. If traditional Western-led lenders like the World Bank, like the IMF, don't come through for Ukraine, are you open to non-traditional third parties?
I don't think it's an either-or. We would like to work with all of our partners, including the Chinese. We would like to attract additional sources of financing and capital, in particular for investment purposes, for infrastructure, for energy, for agriculture, for energy efficiency, for IT, for the areas where Ukraine has true competitive strengths and where we can use these funds, investment funds, to, again, create real jobs, increase salaries, and increase the welfare, the consumer welfare of the Ukrainian nation.
U.S. Vice President Joe Biden said on Monday morning there's a rare and crucial opportunity here. Is he right?
Absolutely. Ukraine has never been more ready to reform. Ukraine has never been more unified in its actions, in its actual reforms. And Ukraine has never been better positioned, both because of the reforms, because of the competitiveness of the economy after the unfortunate devaluation, because of the signature of the free trade agreement with the European Union, which gives us an open market, and our geographic location being so close to that market. I think today is a very unique opportunity for investors in Ukraine.